Welcome back, this is Knack, and we've got another tutorial video coming at you right now. It is how to drill through semi-precious stones with a diamond drill bit. So we're going to be talking about that today, as well as some new fantasy weapons that I've been making, some maces or scepters. In fact, I'll show you right here what we've got. This is a scepter. We've got a copper sphere on one end, some copper wire inlay up the shaft, and then a semi-precious stone sphere topper. Cool, right? But to make this rock solid, so it's not going to fling off if you swing it around, you've got to do some special things. Hence the tutorial, how to drill through semi-precious stone. And that's what you got to do to attach this. What you end up doing is drilling a hole up about that far into it, and there's some ways to attach that a lot more securely once that's done. So we'll be getting into that here in just a little bit. But yeah, scepter's kind of cool. So that's one that I've just recently completed. Here's another one. This is an ebony shaft. It's got a bone topper, or a bone pommel, if you will, right here. And a piece of bone, similar construction up there at the top. And then these are the tagua nuts that you might have seen, also known as vegetable ivory. Tagua nuts are quite cool. You can see they have a nice effect, and I put 4 of them together so it looks kind of like one of those old Victorian type scepters almost. But I've got some other ideas for what type of character might be doing this. So once I get it up for sale, there will be a link below. Check that out, and you'll be able to get my write-up on what kind of character I think that this fantasy weapon would be for. So anyway, it should be fun. But those are the couple scepters that I've been working on. I'm going to be completing this one soon. It's going to have a silver wire inlay up the section here. A nice long one, kind of a viney look almost, or actually it'll be more of a fountain look. And then I'm actually going to top it with a pyrite sphere that I found. So again, I'll be using my diamond drill bit for pyrite. I could probably use carbide for pyrite because pyrite is mostly iron. So I mean, that's a possibility, but I also understand that it can be quite brittle, so probably not going to risk it. We're going to go the safe way and use a diamond drill bit on there. But that should look kind of cool, especially with a silver inlay up the side there. And then I had an idea for this one. I was going to put barnacles on it and then make a conch shell or some fossilized critters from the ocean hanging off the top or something like that. That would be kind of like a scepter of the sea. But the barnacles are really quite gray, and against this bright blue just doesn't quite work. So I'm rethinking this concept a little bit now that I've got it dyed blue. So anyway, but that's going to be a scepter eventually. But right now it is a blue stick. Looking good. A couple other things that I've been working on is I'm making some rings on the lathe. And this is actually a black ebony ring, you can see here. Quite nice. Looks like it's plastic, it's polished up so smoothly. Kind of fun. And I made another cane, another walking cane. This one's kind of interesting here. And I'm going to give you guys a video view of this here in just a moment, where you can get a little bit better view of all of the features on it. So we'll do that here in a second, and then we'll go into the tutorial for today, which again is how to drill using a diamond drill bit on semi-precious stone. So going to be kind of interesting. Let's get you guys a view of the scepters. I want to see a little bit about this. So if you didn't get to see it up close before, this will be a good chance. Nice seamless tagua nut topper. This ebony is quite nice. I didn't put a super shiny finish on it with oil or anything like that. I wanted it to be more dull almost. So I just buffed it really well, and it's sanded super fine, but ebony is quite stable on its own. You can see the little bone topper here. It's just made out of elk antler. You just glue pieces together and then sand it up. It's kind of fun. And you can see the top here. Let me turn it around for you. Same thing. It's just a nice effect when you do that. You can burn them a little bit to add some brown in there. Kind of fun. Here's this one, which is in the tutorial. I'll show you that. Nice sphere, and it topped it very, very well. I think it just looks just right that way. And then the copper inlay is really cool. It just spirals up. It's kind of viney almost. And you can see down the section, the cross section. Looks quite nice. And finished off with a copper sphere. So I'm blocking my lights. That's why it's turning yellow here, but see if I can unblock it a little bit. Looks good. So it's been fun making that. And then this staff is kind of cool. We'll start here at the bottom. It's got a big foot on it, an oversized foot. This really long, slender section. And then kind of a casting section. So if you want to use this as a fantasy weapon, you would be using this big leather handle here as your casting section. And as for a walking grip, you can grip it a couple different ways. You can grip this section here, or you can grip the sphere at the top, which is quite easy to do. And that is made out of a Banksia pod. It's basically a seed pod from Australia. Comes off of a really pretty flowering tree, actually. And the wood here is cocobolo. You can see it's finished up to shine quite nicely. So pretty good. And I did some cool hand tooling on this. Let me see if I can get you a good view. It's basically a sphere up at the top, if you can see that, that's dripping. And there's a drop going down, and this is a droplet dropping in whatever liquid is dripping off of it. So, but kind of interesting. I just had the idea for it and wanted to give it a shot, and I think it really turned out nice. I used an antiquing technique on the leather. So basically these are painted on with a leather paint. It doesn't dye through the leather, it only dyes the surface, so it's basically a paint. And it's white with some yellow highlights around the edges. And then what I did was when I put this brown and black finish on there, I rubbed it right over top of it. It's called a resist technique. And it actually dulls the colors quite a bit. You can see that the white is actually not very white anymore. And I expected this and wanted it, but it's definitely not white anymore. But the yellow around the edges is darker now as well, so you still get that contrast. And it really looks pretty cool. And I tried to add some black in around the edges and things like that. And you can see that some of them got a little bit darker than others, but and there's some lines where it didn't blend super well, like right there, but I think it just adds a lot of character, and it makes that yellow pop just a little bit more. So really quite fun. But thanks for taking a look at some of my new pieces, and I know you're all here to see the tutorial on how to drill these semi-precious stones. So I'm going to show you how I drilled this particular sphere. It's actually rose quartz, so I'll show you how I did that. Okay, to begin the tutorial, the first thing you're going to need is a diamond drill bit, shown here, and a drill press. Very important that you use a drill press if you want your holes to be super straight. Times when you don't need a drill press is if you're drilling bigger holes, where it's a lot easier to eye whether or not it's straight, and then small mistakes tend to not be a problem to begin with. That's when you're drilling things like granite countertops and things like that, though. But for this, you're going to want to use a drill press. And first thing we're going to do is set the depth. And you'll notice what I'm using to clamp this workpiece. Since it's a sphere, it doesn't clamp very well in any other, regular clamps, unless you use like, what would you say? I mean, you could use a rag, I guess, to clamp it, but you need something to grip it. However, this little clamp, or these little things, work really well. Now, I forgot to put something underneath it, but we'll put that here in just a little bit. But let's begin the tutorial. The first thing you need to know about drilling with a diamond drill bit is it has to be immersed in water, or you have to at least be squirting water on it quite constantly. If you don't, it will heat up extremely quickly. It will burn through the metal will melt, the diamonds will fall out, and you will no longer have a diamond drill bit. It just disappears. You've got to have water cooling. Now I started it on the side just a little bit. It tends to be a little bit easier to get started when it's like slightly off center. And there's the little cap. So what I did is I put that cap underneath it, and that's going to keep the sphere from going down as I put pressure on. And we're not going to put super hard amounts of pressure, tons of pressure, but we are going to put significant pressure on as we cut it. And I also adjusted the sphere so that the hole will be centered right in the center. And now we're going to start putting some pressure on, and you can right away see that dust getting into the water fairly quickly, and making it a little bit more milky. So it's, you know it's working right away. Now you want to keep an eye on your diamond drill bit. They do wear out fairly quickly, and this is not the best kind. I can't remember the names for these, but basically what you've got is you've got some that are cast with the diamonds just mixed into the metal, essentially. And then you've got the ones where the diamonds are essentially like brazed onto the surface of just plain steel. And that's the kind that I've got. They tend to be cheaper, but you also, if you're working in small bits like this, you tend to not be able to find the other kind. So these you just have to work with. But once those diamonds do slough off that surface, which they will, you have to replace your bit. So we'll end up replacing the bit a couple times as we go through this, and that's partially because I probably was putting a little bit too much pressure on. And the key to keeping those bits long-lasting as possible is to just keep even, relatively slow pressure, be patient, and then obviously this water as a lubricant, and it keeps the heat out. Wicks that heat away so that it doesn't heat up, because heat is your enemy here. But as you can see, basically you just sit here and drill, and it is a time-consuming process. There's not really quick ways to drill semi-precious stone. Lapidaries will tell you that patience is generally what you have to do, and even with saws and things like that, lapidary saws, the process is usually not super quick. It's a set it and forget it type thing with a professional lapidary. So I'm just going through here. Now you'll notice that the drill bit's not very long, and I'm testing how deep we've got it here just to see. It's not super long of a bit, and it is hollow, and you have to break out the center eventually. And you see there, all I had to do was just take a screwdriver and poke it in there, and that's the first core that we've cored out. Now you do it that way because you will end up spending less drilling time and bits if you drill a core versus if I drilled a solid hole. And that is because there's less surface area when you're coring it, and more surface area if it was a solid flat bit, if you will. And so it would take a heck of a lot longer. The bits would wear out a lot faster because that surface area is bigger, and you'd have to put more pressure on, etc. So the long and short is you got to do the cores where possible. So look for those hollow bits. They're going to save you time. They're going to save you money. And in the end, they'll probably give you a better product and a lot less frustration. So, but we've got this going pretty good. The water it gets milky quite quickly, so it's a little bit difficult to see how far down we've gone. And so sometimes you just need to take it out, dump the water off maybe, and then just gauge how far down it is before you break that core off. And you really want to kind of maximize that. Let's say you only go down like 2 millimeters or something, trying to break that core out if you've only drilled that far is going to be very difficult because it's not long enough, and it will not allow you to get enough leverage on it to break the core out. So you'll want to make sure that you've drilled far enough so that the core will pop out fairly easily. And so here we go, breaking out the second core, and you can see how long that one is. It's a little bit shorter than the first one, and so now I know to gauge a little bit better, we're going to drill just a bit further as we go forward. So, but all in all, so far so good. I'm going to let you listen to a song, and I'll be back with you with the attaching steps here in just a moment. Oh, and that, by the way, is how far we've gone. But do enjoy some song and music, and we'll be right back. Okay, and now for some attaching suggestions. This is just one way to do it, so I'm going to show you this. I ended up not using this way. I'd say out of the two methods, this one's probably not the strongest, but it is strong enough for a lot of applications, and it's actually fairly simple. So basically all you do is you get these plugs that are meant to drill into stone. You drill a hole in stone, and then you put the little plastic into the stone, and then you drill the you screw put your screw in, and it puts the pressure in against the sides, and it holds it actually quite securely. So I just wanted to show you that this does actually work. What I ended up doing, though, because for security purposes, to glue a screw in there is actually probably the best. That's what we want to do. And you can see that this is kind of difficult to get done. What you really have to do is you got to put a lot of pressure on and hold that plastic in as you screw it in, because the natural thing for it to do is to come out as that pressure starts to build. It wants to pop out. So you got to hold it really tight and then screw it in. But I wanted to show that this does actually work. Just be very careful. Make sure that you're putting a lot of pressure on to get it in there. And then if you don't want the head of the screw on there, you can just burn it off. And I'll show you that I did that here in just a few minutes. But what I ended up doing was taking it out and then gluing the screw in, which turns out to be, I think, a little bit more secure than this. But this works quite well as well. Nice, strong, holds up to at least 80 pounds of pressure is what they say, minimum of that. And that's pretty good. That's a lot. Whereas if you just glued the surface on, you're definitely not going to get that kind of pounds per square inch. So, but there you go. I mean, if you need to screw it into something, all you have to do is burn the head of it off, and all of a sudden your sphere becomes the head of the screw, and you're set to go. But Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you guys for watching the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like the videos and subscribe to the channel. This is Knack signing off. We'll catch you guys next time.